So frequency histograms. It's one way that we can represent data, show the data in some kind of a graph, okay? So it is a graph. It's like a bar graph, but the bars are going to touch. So when I think of a histogram, I think of the word history, where the information or the data goes from one thing right to the next. So it's smooth, it's seamless. Yesterday rolled right into today, and very few of us probably even realized. Of course, we were probably sleeping at the time, but history tends to be rather smooth transition from one to the next. But a bar graph makes me think of bars on a jail cell. And there's space in between. So history doesn't have space in between so much. Hopefully, it doesn't ever happen to you, but hopefully if you're in jail, there's space in between when you get back in jail or get into some sort of trouble. Hopefully there's a very large gap. It'd be beautiful if there was no time that happened, but those are my connections. So our first example, we have a varsity basketball team, and these were the points in the games that they won or lost. Okay, the points that team scored. So the first thing we do is create what's called a tally. And to do a tally, you simply put a mark that represents whatever however many pieces of data fit in there. So let's go through, you can go through and fill in your tally, and we'll come back and check and make sure those are matched. So your tally mark should look something like this. If you notice that you have, for example, duplicates, like the 53s here, you will record them both in your tally, because we're counting up how many of those happened. So then the frequency is simply the digit, the number of times that you have something occur in that interval. And yes, we require both of those for a histogram. Someday when you're doing one of these for your job or whatever, you might not actually do a tally and a frequency. You might just do the frequency, but in algebra we require both. So now, when we're going to make our histogram, we use the frequency, and that goes up the side here. And then the intervals go across the bottom. Now, high school math and high school science don't agree on what to do here. In high school math, because our first interval is at 40, we put what I call a lightning bolt right in that corner. And it's true for all high school math. Scientists, for some reason, don't do that. But in high school math, we put that lightning bolt. It's like we have a huge chunk of graph paper, and we're going to shrink it up, fold it up, kind of that accordion style. When you were a little kid, you might have made a fan to keep you cool. So we took that paper, graph paper, and we shrunk it right up. Your intervals need to be right next to each other. And in this case, they can be, they can actually only be 2 wide on our paper, and I have them 3 wide. I've got to make a little more space here. So if you have to write them kind of kitty corner or something to make things fit, that is certainly fine. On the Regents exam, they have been very good about giving you lots of space. Your graph paper will always fit for that. So then we have to label our frequency. We have to get up to 7. I like to kind of stretch mine out. So I'm going to take 2 bars to represent each number. And it's not a rule that you do that. I just like to use as much of my chunk of graph paper as I can. And I would prefer that you spread out as much as you can and write as large as you can. I know that that doesn't fit every single time, but it's helpful, especially for those of you who write really small. It's helpful for me to see what I'm looking at a little better if things are spread out and not all mashed together. So that's all you have to do to make a histogram. Some of you might like to add a little color and fun and foofara to your histogram bars, and you're welcome to do that. I get to add a little extra different fun than you get. But you are welcome to color them in. If you want to use different colored pencils, whatever, that's great. Again, not required. But please be sure that I will be able to see the outline of your bars. Okay, that's very important that I know exactly how far up, over, etc. your bars are. Because I won't be grading your test this year, another teacher will be, so I want to be sure that, and I'll remind you 100 million times during the test to make sure that all of your markings are nice and dark and very legible. Because I don't want you to miss something because somebody can't read it. Okay, we have a second example. These are on a math quiz. So we're going to do our first step, which is create the tally. So if you'll go ahead and do the tally marks for this quiz, and you can do frequency as well, please. Okay, so we have our tally and frequency done. Now we need to build our histogram. Again, frequency goes up the side. We only have to get up to 6 this time. So I'm going to do the same for frequency as I did before. We're starting at 50, so in math I need that lightning bolt. And this time we can be 3 wide. Oh, well, I go off a little bit here. I didn't catch that. But that's all right. So I spilled over just a little bit, but that's okay. Again, on the Regents, they have always given you enough space on your graph paper to do your histogram. It'll fill in there very nicely. Also, when it's time to do this tally chart and the histogram, you can do that just in pencil. Anything else, like what we're going to do down here in exercises 2 and 3, or sorry, 3 and 4. I don't know why that was already on there, but moving on. For exercise 3 and 4, anything else you do besides the graph or table has to be final answer in pen. You can do a first time through in pencil, and then feeling confident you can go back over it in pen, but we'll go over all of that. You're going to hear plenty of that from me, so don't panic about all that just yet. So now that we have our histogram done, we can answer a few questions about this. In what interval does the median of this data set lie? Well, median implies the middle. So where's the middle of our data? you think between 70 and 79. How'd you get that?
I found the median of all the numbers using the...
Okay, so you went to the list? Yeah, okay. There's another way to do it. Certainly going to the list is a great idea. Remember that that list is not in order, so you have to put them in order first and then find the middle. You can certainly plunk it into your calculator and let your calculator do the calculations as well, okay? But we have how many students? How many quizzes do we have here altogether? Right, we have 20. How did I get that? I added these together. We have 20 grades. Where would the middle grade be? At 10, okay? So I can start sort of at this low end and work up to 10, or I can start at the top and work down to where that 10th grade is. So if I go 6 plus 2 is 8, so I'm going to fall in here for where that 10th grade is from the bottom. If I go the other way, 3 plus 5 is 8, so I'm still going to fall in here. And all they're asking us for is that interval. So the interval from 70 to 79 is the median. If they ask you for a specific where it is, what the exact value is, then yes, go to your calculator, find out what that interval is, okay? In number 4, in what interval does the lower quartile of this data set lie? All right? Lower quartile is what percent? 25. I guess I'll be down here. So I've got my 20 quiz grades divided by 4 to get each quartile. So I need to know where the what grade is. What's 20 divided by 4? Yeah? I need to know where that 5th grade is. So I'm going to go up, starting at the bottom grades, and I'm going to work towards the top until I get to the 5th student. Well, I don't have to go very far, do I? In that first interval, I have 6 grades, and I need the 5th one. I need the first, that top 5, or well, in this case, lower 5. So it's in the interval from 50 to 59. Again, they didn't ask me specifically what it is. They asked me for the interval in both of these. All right, good luck on your homework.